Hey, welcome back to the Unbelievable Podcast. I am BJ Reidell, back here with my guy, Drew Mahowald, and today, I don't even, I feel like it's hard for me to even be positive in the introduction here.
Fair enough.
Vikings,
I understand.
Vikings, last time we spoke, had an opportunity here to get back to to get over the 500 mark, against the Dallas Cowboys. We expected Dak Prescott to be the quarterback. That was not the case. So the Vikings had a very good opportunity to get over the 500 mark. And guess what happened, folks? Well, we didn't. So 20-16 is your final from Minnesota. On Sunday Night Football, your Minnesota Vikings lose to the Dallas Cowboys and drop to 3-4 on the season. And in the process, lose to Neil Hunter, star defensive end and pass rusher for the rest of the season. So, man, this is not going to be a great show. Honestly, this is going to be a doom and gloom podcast. It's very hard to be positive right now, but we will do our best here to break down what happened, break down some reasons for optimism moving forward, and do the same thing that we typically do whenever the Vikings lose in horrific fashion. We've done this before, and I'm sure we'll do it again. So, where would you like to start today, Drew?
I don't know where to start. And the frustrating part for me is that, we're going to harp on the same stuff we've been harping on for really the whole year. I don't even know where to begin, man. This team scripting the first series of the first offensive series of the game is probably better than any team in the NFL. You saw that first drive. How electric was that? There was play action passing down the field. You had the fade to Conklin beating Jaron Kearse. You had a bubble screen to Jefferson, and then that would set up a fake bubble screen for the touchdown. You had, pass interference drawn down the field and shots down the field. And it goes for touchdown. And they immediately go away from all of that. It's just the most baffling thing in the world. And there's details I don't know. I haven't looked at the all-22 to see what Dallas was doing. Maybe they made some good adjustments. Maybe Dan Quinn was firing on all cylinders out there, but I just find that hard to believe given Dallas's defense before this, where they weren't ranked very highly in terms of, shutting teams down in yards and in efficiency moving the ball. It was just, they got turnovers at the right time. And they suddenly shut down this Vikings offense that had been overall pretty lethal during the year, especially when it was time to get aggressive. So we've been saying that over and over, get aggressive, let Kirk rip the ball. And it could have been Kirk, could have been Kubiak, could have been Zimmer. I don't know who was at fault, but so many short throws, which is completely anti-optimal, right? I don't know if that's the right word. Anti-optimal.
It's the right word for this podcast. It's anti-optimal. Yes.
You have Justin Jefferson, who is a premier deep threat down the field, right? Creating separation on deep routes, high pointing the ball in traffic. Adam Thielen is as savvy of a route runner as there is in the NFL. He's still got some speed and quickness to him. And you're just refusing to use those guys. It is baffling to me. And it's, I hate it, man. I could go so many different directions here. I could rant forever on this stuff, but you can listen to other shows and get the same sentiment, man. I'm so perplexed by all of this, how the Vikings can go away from what's working, very clearly working. And I know there's a difference between scripting plays out and then kind of adjusting it on the fly mid game. I get that, but the overall philosophy seems to be, let's get aggressive first drive and then ultra conservative the rest of the way. And it's just like, how
painfully
is that
conservative? Yeah.
Painfully conservative. It's truly unbelievable to me. So that's how I'm going to open, I guess. I don't even know where to go and when to stop, when to keep going. I don't even know.
All right. So let's start with the baseline here and what happened, right? You mentioned really the only scoring drive, 3 minutes and 11 seconds long, 7-play drive, straight down the chute, 6 points for your Minnesota Vikings and the extra point to boot. Didn't screw anything up. As efficient as you will see this Minnesota Vikings offense. Now I'm going to read off to you just the rest of the half in terms of possessions. Next drive, missed field goal from Dallas. Opportunity number 1. Great field position. Punt 4 plays later after 18 yards. Like right there. Come on. Pass short right. Deep incompletion. All right. That's nice. All right. Next drive. Opportunity number 2 is coming along. Interception. That's the first one, by the way. Both the Vikings got multiple turnovers on defense yesterday. Punt. 3-play drive. 3 and out. Don't even get their defense an opportunity to rest on that one. Dallas goes down. This time they actually get a field goal. Vikings respond. They're like, all right, we'll go 49 yards in 11 plays. We're going to go to like a 4.1 per play average to get a field goal in 5 minutes. Then you go punt, then end of half. The Vikings had 40 seconds, by the way, to end the half. And I believe they also had a timeout as well.
Oh,
Didn't even care. Didn't even care.
I
just didn't even think about it. It wasn't
so they
even
completed a pass. Oh, there had to have been like 27 seconds left, 25 seconds left when the pass was completed. And was it Conklin or was it was somebody didn't quite get out of bounds? Maybe Amir Smith Marset. I don't remember who it was, but caught the pass, didn't quite get out of bounds. And instead of calling the timeout, which I know you want to save the timeout, right?
Right.
But even instead of spiking the ball to stop the clock, no, we got to run a full play. So Kirk's got to tell every player individually what that play is.
Yeah.
Snap the ball at 6 seconds left. The half's over. It's not
just the thought anymore. It's also the execution as well. Like when they even it seemed like Mike Zimmer on a couple of occasions, he went for it on 4th down one time. He got aggressive a couple of times. We got the quote, the thought that counts, but then you can't execute it most of the time, right? I mean, I just went through the first half of just basic, overall terms of possession, time of possession. That was basically what it was for the rest of the game. Touchdown, punt, field goal, punt, field goal, punt, fumble, punt, field goal, touchdown, downs. That's how the rest of this game went. Cowboys didn't play well either. Vikings played about half this game without Danielle Hunter. They honestly, great defensive showing. So a lot of guys stepped up and played, solid football. Now, were there some missed opportunities there? For sure. Cameron Dancer should have had an interception, the one that he picked off the turf that was reviewed and called back. He should have just stepped up, an extra yard further and caught that ball a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. Brashad Breeland also had an opportunity to get, what would have been a highlight reel caliber interception as well. Another missed opportunity. So there's the theme here. It's just consistently missed opportunities. And then you go to the third down numbers. Like, don't even get me started on the third down stuff. Like, are you kidding me? The Cowboys won
one of 14 or something like that. Vikings.
Yes. The Vikings were at one of 13, one of 2 on 4th. So in total, on key situations, turnover and down situations, 2 for 15 for an entire football game. And we spent, 45 minutes of this last show talking about how this is going to be a situational game. Vikings in previous, games, years under Zimmer, great defensively on third down, fairly average offensively on third down. Well, you got nothing from the offense on third down, and you got 50%, 7 for 14 conversion rate from Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush, not Cooper Kupp, the offensive player of the year candidate. Nope, Cooper Rush, his first NFL start away in your home stadium at US Bank Stadium. It's just unbelievable. Like, you can go back. Every single thing that we're going to say today is going to go back to what we've been harping on, and really what the entire Vikings fan base has been harping on for what it's worth in the passive play. How does Justin Jefferson get 4 targets all game long? 3 of those targets came in the first 5 drives. How does he get 4 targets all game long? How? I just want to know. Like, this game was never in a position where the Vikings should have been doing anything other than playing balanced football. They should have been playing 60-40, 50-50, 40-60 split pass run the entire game based on the score, right? And I know there's a lot more that goes into that. As always, we are oversimplifying for the simple fact of making a point, right? But you got to be kidding me. How does your number one, your star receiver, get 4 targets? I know that this was more of an Adam Thielen game, and in the past we've kind of seen that this team has kind of shifted back and forth between the two for one reason or another, as opposed to just giving both guys 8 targets each game. But really, there's no excuse for this. Adam Thielen gets 9 targets. That's good. How? How does Justin Jefferson only get 4? That's how? What's going through your head to make that happen?
The bothersome thing for me is when this team gets behind schedule in a series of downs. It might be a loss of 2, a loss of 3 on first down, something like that. And they're suddenly set up a 2nd and long. They completely mail it in every single time. It's a little screen for 3 yards. It's another draw play to set up 3rd and 8 or 3rd and 10. And there's no hope at all. It's like Clint Kubiak has never ever seen 2nd and 13 before. He's like, I don't know what to do. It's unbelievable to me. The other thing too I wanted to point out is we talked about that end of the half timeout situation. They asked Kirk about that after the media did. when, all those last 20 some seconds just ticked off the clock as the Vikings were scrambling, trying to set something up. And he says, I just let the coaches handle that. I let Coach Zimmer handle the timeouts. Dude, I mean, first of all, if Kirk Cousins doesn't have the command or the responsibility like being given to him to take timeouts, there's an issue. Number one. Mm-hmm. Number two, if he does have that responsibility and he's still like he has that task given to him, or he has that ability and he didn't do it there. I mean, this is it. I don't know, man. It's a complete failure. So the point we're ramping up to now is, I mean, this is you can look at this in a few ways, but I think this is for a lack of a better term, like a very momentous, consequential loss, because I think jobs were lost from this game. Mm-hmm. Now, Mike Zimmer might not be fired this week. I don't think he will. Right. And I love Mike Zimmer. I love him as a dude. I think he did great things as the coach here. I love the attitude he brought. But the philosophy is just too old, man. It's too old school. It's outdated. And so I think this was kind of that straw, the final straw. I think unless some sort of magical run happens here, I think this is his last year with the Vikings. And so I think he's going to ride out this year. I think the Vikings might sneak into the playoffs. I still think they can, based on the NFC landscape right now. They can get that 7 seed, go to Tampa Bay or Lambeau or wherever and get smoked by 15. Right. But I hope, for the sake of the franchise moving forward, they have to change directions. They have to. And then the same probably can be said about the quarterback position as well. It's just the whole regime has failed. I know you had a team that almost went to the Super Bowl in 2017. In theory, you should be a quarterback away from making it, and they've been a completely supremely average football team since signing Kirk Cousins. That's a simple fact. I think they're like 2 games over 500. It's like 28-26 or something is their record in that time. It's just that's average. That's a failure. If you're a team that's 13-3, you sign your quarterback to a $30 million deal or salary over the next 4 years, and you're 2 games over 500 in 4 years, that is a failure. You have failed. And I don't care. It might not be Kirk's fault necessarily, where he's, his performance has been what it is, right? But for whatever reason, and you have to imagine Kirk's salary plays part of this, the defense has certainly fallen apart a little bit and declined. The offensive line has barely made any progress, if at all, since that time. You're lucky to land Justin Jefferson, right? But defensively, they've invested so much in cornerback and offensive line, they're getting absolutely nothing out of it. And that salary is handicapping them. The whole thing's just been a failure. It sucks to say that because, as Vikings fans, we kind of want to prop up our team and things like that. But ultimately, man, you're 13-3. You have one of the best defenses of all time. And certainly that's going to regress, no doubt. But to go 8-7-1 the year after that, and then to follow that up with, 2019, you made the playoffs. You got a overtime win in the playoffs against an overrated Saints team. And then you've completely fallen apart after that. It's just baffling to me how everything's worked out and how the Vikings have still yet, they haven't acknowledged that this has failed. And that's the first part about all of this. And hopefully for the greater good down the road, this loss kind of helps the franchise acknowledge that it was a failure and then move on. And so maybe that might include getting rid of Spielman, Zimmer, and Cousins, or 2 of the 3, or all of them, or one of the, I don't know, but changes have to be made.
I agree. I'm with you on that. And I think that the important term here is just the term failure in general, right? Because it's subjective to what you believe failure is, right? And Vikings fans notoriously, myself included, have fairly low expectations, right? Like we kind of expect the worst case scenario, but at the same time, this is a team without a championship, right? You're 0-4 in the Super Bowl. Ziggy Wilf made it very clear in 2017 that the lone goal for this franchise is winning a championship. Getting to the NFC Championship, getting to the playoffs.
If he really means that, he'll make changes. If he means that, he'll make the changes because clearly, right? I mean, how many times we have to see this team just be average to, get it through our minds that this team isn't going to compete with the Tampa Bays and the Los Angeles Rams and the Green Bay Packers on a consistent basis. It's just not. Yeah, they might fluke into a win like last year at Windy Lambeau, right? and you might get some crazy circumstances where that's possible, but it's you can't. This team will not put it together for 4 weeks in a row to win a Super Bowl. You just don't have it. You have to beat it. That right now, I mean, let's say they get that 7 seed, which I actually do think they will. The NFC is very bad right now. There's 5 really good teams. The Saints are kind of in there, and then there's really nobody else, which is why I think the Vikings will get it. That would mean they get the 7 seed. They have to go to the number 2 seed and beat them, which is probably Tampa, Green Bay, the Rams. Whoever else is up there, Dallas maybe. Go there, beat them. Then they go to another contender, one of those teams, beat them. And they go to another contender in the title game and beat them just to get to the Super Bowl to probably go play Buffalo or whoever else. Mm-hmm. So it's time to blow it up, man. And I'm not saying right now fire Mike Zimmer. I'm just saying you gotta the future. Like now, if I'm ownership, and again I'm far from ownership, but you have to know now what your plan is moving forward. And I hope there was already kind of thin ice there for this kind of regime here. And if it's not, there's issues.
Did you when you were younger, honestly, whenever, did you ever watch the show Dexter's Laboratory? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
Do you know what I'm talking about though? Okay, someone does that's listening to this. All right, I'm older, I guess. I'm missing a whole generation here, but there's a particular episode. This is a cartoon show from when I was like 8 or 10 years old, right? And it's this genius kid, and he works in his laboratory that's hidden underneath his his bedroom, and he's smart as hell, gets straight A's, whatever. He builds all this crazy technology. That's the purpose of this ridiculous cartoon, right? It was pretty hilarious back in the day. I'm pissed that I have to say back in the day. But anyways, there was an episode, right, where he gets a B, and he freaks out and decides that he's average and changes his entire personality to match the fact that he got a B instead of an A on the report card. He starts, backwards hat with the Colin Coward like whole thing, backwards hat, stupid clothes, trying to hang out with the B, C student kids, whatever. He changes his entire personality to fit that average dynamic. All right, do you see where I'm going here with this now? The Vikings have fit their personality to be an average football team when they have all the resources necessary to be a great team. They have the ownership. The Wilfs are great, by the way. It's like you've got from ownership down, you've got all the pieces in place to do the right things, except for something always goes haywire, right? You always make one drastic mistake, whether it's a missed field goal, whether it's we'll look back and it'll be overpaying Kirk Cousins, whether it's, using your first round pick to draft Cordero Patterson, whatever it is. You always make this ridiculous mistake and either fail to execute on it afterwards, or you just don't live up to expectations. So you have given us, this fan base, there's so many people out there who are just like, all right, we'll take the 7th seed. And that's fine. That's cool. But that's average. That's not good. That's not going to get you, as Drew laid out for you.
That's what happened. That's what's happened the last 3 years. I mean, yeah, that's what happened the last 3 seasons. They've been super average, but they've had one extra win against a bad quarterback, for example, that has lifted them into that playoff spot and kind of given that false sense of optimism, that false sense of like success, even that, we playoff team.
We're one step away. We're always
2019. How many in 2019? How many backup quarterbacks did they beat last year or that year? There was like David Blau, there was Chase Daniel. They actually lost Chase Daniel and Matt Moore that year. Yep. But they had so many like backup quarterbacks, guys that normally don't start that were in there. There's Brandon Allen in Denver where they almost lost to. I'm top of my head. I mean, there was an extreme stroke of luck that year to play the quarterbacks that they did. And then 2020, you had injuries that derailed and showed how terrible the depth was on this roster. And so you get that into 2021. It's unbelievable how there was Super Bowl aspirations for this team and all this stuff. They weren't even close, man. They were not even close. And you're seeing it now when Cooper Rush comes into US Bank Stadium, lights you up for 300 some yards and puts together a game-winning drive on you because you're too scared you're playing to not lose to Cooper Rush instead of just beating him because you have the superior talent. Unbelievable to me.
It is unbelievable. Using the name of the show inside the podcast. How about that? This is probably one of the first shows, at least, recently in the last handful of months, maybe 6 months, a year even, where we haven't started the show by talking about the quarterback. We generally hand out slices of pie here. I think we've already made it pretty clear that what the slice of pie is. And it's basically the entire thing is going to Mike Zimmer and Clint Kubiak and the rest of the staff for simply just not being willing to, I'm not even saying be aggressive, but just like under aggressive, like overly passive.
Yeah.
Anti,
I don't know
what's the word you used before?
Everybody that's listening to this knows what you're talking about. Like
Right.
there's several words you can kind of use to dance around what that means. But, to me, it's they get a lead and then they do whatever they can to run the clock only,
Yes,
which is
that's it.
Unbelievably like outdated philosophy in today's NFL when Cooper Rush can connect with Cedric Wilson for an 80-yard touchdown on any given play, and then your philosophy is already out the window. It's I don't know. I mean, clearly I don't think I've been as annoyed with the Vikings as I am right now. It's painful to watch because Vikings go down the field and score a touchdown the first drive. Doesn't do a single thing for me because I know that doesn't matter in the long run. It doesn't matter. So in terms of Kirk now, I know we wanted to get to Kirk a little bit, but
yeah, how much of the blame or how much of the fault or how annoyed, simply put, how annoyed with Kirk Cousins relative to this loss specifically? Because I'm inclined to be more mad at Mike Zimmer and Clint Kubiak and the overall philosophy of this team than Kirk Cousins. Yes, he missed a couple throws. There was one down the sideline to Jefferson that if he had that one, who knows, he might have got another touchdown. That might have been the difference in the game. Sure. Okay. We can slice out that tiny little section or whatever for Kirk Cousins. But generally speaking, I'm not that pissed off at Kirk Cousins. He played the game that was called from what I can see.
There's
right?
a couple of things here, and I don't really know how annoyed I am with Kirk because they don't. It's the coaching staff doesn't seem to trust him, which I don't know.
Is that his fault or is that the coach's
I don't know.
fault?
Like, I seriously, I don't know. Like,
I don't either.
You can look at PF. By the way, Pro Football Focus has Kirk, I think, as a number 2 quarterback in the NFL right now. So think of that what you will. But we've seen Kirk get really hot when the coaches have to trust him, right? When that's like, we have no choice, but we have to score now. So you let it rip. And he's been so good at it, but they still don't trust him enough to do anything but run, pass in their 3 plays, which is, I don't know if that's a detriment to Kirk. I don't know if that's more on the coaching staff for not realizing what Kirk's talents are. I'm puzzled by that. So Kirk's slice of the pie is anywhere from like 15% to 40%. I mean, somewhere in there. I don't even, again, it's just the fact that, and our friend Eric Eager was tweeting this yesterday during the game from Pro Football Focus. He was saying that Dallas is trusting Cooper Rush more than the Vikings are trusting Kirk Cousins. I totally agree with it based on the way the game was called by both teams. By the Dallas game plan, the Vikings, it was as if the Vikings went in there with the backup quarterback playing against, the veteran star player on the other side. And it was actually flip-flopped. So I don't know. I think Kirk missed some chances. I think he, didn't take the one-on-one chances down the field he could have and checked it down too often. But I also understand if he was kind of told by the coaching staff to put together this game plan with this philosophy to run the clock out, that's fine. Like I understand that on his side too. So it's all so annoying, man. It is. I'm heated.
It's something to note here, by the way, as this discussion probably fires up and potentially gets even stronger following this weekend's game against Baltimore. The Wilfs, by the way, Tyler Fournette, one of the guys to climb in the pocket, pointed this out. The Wilfs have never fired a coach in season for reasons on the field, right? The only reason in recent memory that the Wilfs have decided to let a coach go was Brad Childress back in, 2010. And that was a insubordination thing in which Childress kind of decided to go rogue and do his thing. And the Wilfs weren't too happy about that. That's the one occasion. So if you're expecting Mike Zimmer to be fired this week or next week, that would be unprecedented territory. So it would be irrational. It would probably be irresponsible to a degree for us to suggest that Mike Zimmer is going to get fired. It's probably not gonna happen. Do we think it should happen?
I don't think it'll happen in season. And I don't even think I wouldn't
do it in season. I wouldn't do it in season.
Now, I do kind of want to see how Andre Patterson would be as an interim head coach. And I think he, and again, I don't know the guy that well. I just know I've seen him kind of in press conferences, and he seems like he's a very well thought out individual. Like,
Sure.
I think he'd be a really good leader of men. And I think he is now, but I'm saying like as an entire in that head coaching role. But I'm all about an offensive head coach at this point. I that's what I need to see. So, and I don't think they have the guy on staff to be that person right now. I don't think Clint Kubiak's ready for that. So I think you ride out the year with Zimmer, and then you try and go find that next offensive minded guy to be the head coach. That's what I think they should do right now. But again, if they were to give Andre Patterson that chance, I guess, I'd be excited to see it. Excited to see him be in that leadership role, but I think they need an offensive minded head coach right now for the future.
Something to consider here, if the Vikings elect not to, fire Mike Zimmer or the staff, whatever. I don't think that's going to happen. That's the hill that I'm dying on, so I'm going to roll with that, right? If you don't, that allows you the potential to retain an Andre Patterson on your new coach's staff next season, right? So theoretically, if you give Andre Patterson that interim head coaching tag or whatever, and then you basically say to him, all right, we're not going to make you the head coach. You want to go back to being defensive coordinator? It's not going to happen. So that's something to think about here. Because Andre Patterson probably should be a solo defensive coordinator, by the way. Of course, Adam Zimmer is co-chairing that operation, which is very necessary.
For the chaos, by the way.
Yeah.
Fire Zimmer and hire Adam Zimmer as the head coach.
Can you imagine what that? I don't even, man, that would be insane. But here's the thing.
The thing is, I'm not even putting out of the question for this franchise right now.
I wouldn't either. Here's the thing. I don't necessarily even need an offensive coach, but I definitely need a progressive coach. It doesn't really need to be like, when I say progressive, I'm not asking for them to hire a 32-year-old to make them the new, team that has the youngest coach in the NFL. That's not what I'm asking for. I'm asking for a guy that values 2021 football. I don't know who that is off the top of my head, but for example, Brandon Staley in the Chargers organization, both of us really like him. He's a defensive-minded guy, but he's also very progressive offensively and built around it, with his staff with other like-minded individuals that have that kind of aggressive streak. Has he run into a bit of a bump in the road in Los Angeles right now? Sure, but that's the kind of mind that we're looking for here, right? Someone who is, not necessarily set in their ways, not necessarily a guru. I don't even care about all that stuff. Just give me a guy that has a progressive attitude, willing to facilitate.
Yeah.
Job rolls around. I don't know who that guy is right now. I know it's not Joe Brady. I hope to God it's not Joe Brady. My goodness, he lost his luster in Carolina this year. But, this discussion can be had 2 months from now. For now, we'll focus on, where the Vikings are at. But the point is that this team right now is not good enough to be anything more than a 7 seed. And if you're cool with that, that's fine. We could still have fun with that this season, right? This show can still be, fun being a 9-8 podcast and a team where, they're good enough, whatever, to get to the show. We can still have fun with all that. But ultimately, I think we've said this at the beginning of the season. I think that we said this throughout the season this year as well, that if this team wants to win a Super Bowl, there needs to be changes. And I think there needs to be substantial changes. And this is the final straw. This is the straw that broke the camel's back, right? You saw everything that you needed to see. You saw, an opportunity lost. You saw.
I would love to see
progressive offense.
I would love to hear from people in the comments. I just want to, if you disagree with us in terms of you don't think you're not on the fire Zimmer train yet. You're not on the move on from Kirk Cousins train yet. I would love to hear what your take is and why. Because here's the thing, maybe I'm proven wrong and they win 5 in a row after this. I don't see that as likely, but losing at home to Cooper Rush in his first NFL start. Granted, he played well in the spotlight, 100%, like he did what he had to do.
I'm happy for the guy, by the way. Even as a Vikings fan, good for him. He just put millions into his pocket. That's one of those situations where he made the most out of his opportunity. That's cool. At our expense, but whatever.
Yes. Yeah. You can't lose this game, man. You can't lose this
laughable.
Game.
It really is.
Dallas was handing you this game on a silver platter and you didn't take it. So I'm sick of talking about this game. Otherwise, we're just going to repeat the same stuff over and over. The frustration points are pretty clear right now. Outdated philosophy, this scared chicken, what mindset. Once you get a lead in the game, there's the lack of target for Justin Jefferson. There's a bunch of things we can go at, but the same thing stands, man. It's too old school, too outdated of philosophy. You take the game by the horns, and if you don't do that, every team in the NFL is good enough to come back and basically beat you, right? Detroit almost did it to you if not for some luck at the end of that game. So I we'll be back. I don't know. I'm sick of talking about this. So
You close out the show today?
I'm closing it out. I'm closing it out because I'm done. So we'll be back early next this week. I don't even know who they play next. I don't even care.
Baltimore.
They play Baltimore this week. Okay, we'll be back in a couple days. Talk Baltimore. Talk about how much Lamar Jackson is going to rush for this week. Yeah, you want to take the rest from here? I'm done, man.
Vikings also won the turnover battle, by the way, by 2. Still found a way to lose. You don't see that happening.
Happy. There we go. I'm good. I'm happy for the Vikings. Good for the Vikings.
Let's all whoop it up for the Vikings here. 3-4 on the season. Another opportunity lost. In the meantime, this podcast will maintain its steady stride towards the end of this season. 2 episodes a week. No doubt. Happy, doom and gloom, whatever. We will be here. We'll be here on Thursday to preview the Vikings matchup with the Baltimore Ravens. They are 5.5-point underdogs to open the week. So we'll see what that one looks like, but I think it's going to be a lot of the same thing. In the meantime, if you need some more Viking stuff to listen to right now, if you want to wallow in all of our misery together, make sure to check out the Climb in the Pocket Network. 5 shows a week, live shows. There's also podcasts spread throughout the network. A lot of different content creators. So if you don't like Drew and I, there's probably someone on our staff that you will enjoy. iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, wherever else you've listened to your podcast, you can find us as well as the rest of that network. And you can find the content, the written content that is, on the Daily Norseman. Make sure to check us out there. Drop us a line in the comment section. You can find us on YouTube and use that comment section as well. But I highly recommend that Daily Norseman one because it gets a little bit more fun. A lot more, people tend to be involved in those sections. Maybe you can get into a heated argument with someone in that section too. So thank you as always for joining us and, kind of like I was saying, wallowing in the misery that is the Minnesota Vikings right now. And we will catch you guys later on this week.